Hello, everybody. This is Tracy Schroyer, and I'm sharing information on my breast cancer journey to help others out there, whether you have a loved one, family, friend, coworker experiencing the news of breast cancer, or you yourself are going through this as well. So I am actually backtracking. So I am, oh, a little over 3 months, almost 4 months out from getting the news, and want to backtrack and tell some of the story as I can recollect it and share that with you. So the first video that I did was really about scheduling my mammogram, getting the mammogram, the ultrasound, and the biopsy. And what I want to take you into now is from the biopsy that I had. So I had my biopsy on December 31st, 2019. And so New Year's Eve, I got to spend finding out from the nurse practitioner prior to my biopsy that I likely it was breast cancer, and getting the biopsy done. And then I had to wait, and especially waiting over a holiday to find out the news of what it was and kind of going from there. So I actually got a call bright and early January 2nd. I was thinking that I might not get the news until at least Friday evening, and you're kind of on pins and needles and at home, and already being off work, and kind of like, what can I do to take my mind off of this? And one of the things that I will tell you that was it was extremely a blessing to me, is I had saved up some money, a couple $100 for Christmas for 2019. And Tony, my husband, and I had not really spent as much, and there wasn't a lot of gift giving. It was more about spending time with people and experiences for Christmas this past year. So I still had quite a bit of that money in savings. And in my mind, this is like me, as you'll get to know me, is, oh, good, I can pay that money towards a bill, or I can stock it into savings or something like that. Well, my husband and I were talking. This was probably, oh, it was right before Christmas, actually. And he had said, well, why don't you take that and buy your Cricut? So I had been wanting for the last couple of years to buy this Cricut crafting machine, and to be able to make different vinyl stickers and just crafty things, being able to do. And it was a lot of cool different concepts that I've seen on Facebook, or I've seen other friends do it, or things like that. And I've been wanting one for a long time, but for me to part with that kind of money, the machine, I bought the machine in a package deal. So I got, vinyls to start out with, and some transfer tape, transfer paper for it. Was a little over $200, like $225. So for me, that was a lot of money to spend on myself to get something. And so it didn't take me very long to say, I agree, I'll go buy that. So for some reason, I just was cool with that, and ordered it, found it. It actually came the weekend of Christmas. So I can't remember exactly what day of the week Christmas was on. I think Christmas was on a Tuesday in 2019. So it came that weekend after. And that is, I started to make things, figuring out things, watching videos, and just playing around with it, testing it. I'm not afraid to get in there and try it out, and play with things. So I used that a lot, and I remember my mom telling me that that was really a blessing to take my mind off of it as much as I could. And you should have seen, I cranked out quite a bit of things in the couple of weeks where I was going through this whole journey. So that was very helpful mentally, to kind of take some of those fears and thoughts out. And so I was doing the same thing New Year's Eve. We never can stay up till midnight. Um, into New Year's Day. We stayed home. I think we stayed home. We never usually go out for New Year's Eve. So I got the call from my nurse practitioner that I had talked to on New Year's Eve that morning. And she called me bright and early Thursday, January 2nd. And she said, are you somewhere where we can talk? Like, she wanted to make sure. She had even told me this when I met with her prior, that if you're in the car or something, and I don't want to give you bad news if you're driving and make you get in an accident. So great, very nice. So I said, no, I can talk. What's going on? What did you find? And she said, as we suspected, it is cancer. It's breast cancer. And so from there, feel like I was very collected. I'm not an overly emotional person, so I didn't start to cry or tear up. But it was a lot mentally to handle to hear that, you have cancer. And she said, so the next steps that we're going to do and is that so I ended up going in that was a Thursday. I went in Saturday to get an MRI. And that gives them a little bit more detail about what's going on. I can't remember exactly all the aspects of it. But she had me scheduled for Saturday to go in, get an MRI at Riverside Hospital. And um, trying to think of what else. She also said that a breast surgeon in their office, I had already made up an appointment when I saw this nurse practitioner on the 31st. I forgot to mention that. So she had me make an appointment with a breast surgeon already. She said, we're going to put it on the calendar for like a week and a half out. If you don't need it, you don't need it, we cancel it. If you do need it, it's already there, so we don't have to wait longer, which was awesome. So she told me, she said, you'll go for the MRI on Saturday, and then you'll see the breast surgeon as you have scheduled already. And I'll have to, for my next video, look at the timing for that appointment. I believe that this was a Thursday that she called me, and that appointment was scheduled for that following Tuesday. So not really too long of a time frame. And everything moved so quickly, which is really, really good health-wise. It's really, really challenging mentally to be thrown into this whirlwind of everything and going and trying to figure out who's who, doctors, nurses, techs, whatever, and what the tests are and what you're doing and all this kind of stuff. And I remember at one point when I was crying, it was December 31st, after I'd seen the nurse practitioner before my biopsy. I was sitting in the patient navigator's office and still crying. And I looked at her and I said, how much is all this going to cost? Like, it just all of a sudden hit me like, oh my gosh, I have really good health insurance through my job. Um, but I'm thinking, oh my God, how? And we had just started in the last, 3 or 4 months prior to that, being a lot better about our budget and tracking things and watching things. And I'm just, overwhelmed with that too. Like it feels like this is going to wreck so many pieces of my life and my husband's life and, the family and friends around us. And, she gave that regular response of, everybody's insurance is different, we'll have to look through that and all that kind of stuff. So, but so I had the MRI on that Saturday. I had never had an MRI before, so people did tell me to expect that there would be a lot of the loud banging sounds. So it's like, I think it's magnets that bang back and forth together. I don't know if she's a tech or a nurse, or she's a nurse. So when I went in to do that, of course, by that time, it's like, I don't care who needs to see my boobs, just open up the robe or whatever. But they were very, very gracious and good. And it was a woman that was helping me, and she was making sure I was covered when I was around the guy that was helping with the MRI and all that kind of stuff. But for the MRI, I had to lay on top of, it was almost like my body was angled. And so my breasts were in between this thing. And she was kind of worried because some women, their breasts are not the same size. And one was actually touching the bottom of the tray or whatever. And so I ended up scooting or whatnot. And so it couldn't for the MRI. But I'm kind of propped up laying in this thing. They put headphones on you, but they didn't feel like either they weren't positioned well enough or they didn't have the sound up loud enough, because she asked, like, what do you want to listen to? You can listen to music, so it's not, that banging isn't too crazy. And I remember I asked her for Lady Gaga, and she ended up telling me afterwards, or she said through the speaker, through the room, she said Lady Gaga wouldn't work. So she put on Gwen Stefani or something like that. It was good music, but it was not loud enough for all the banging and everything. But so I was face down on kind of this cushion. I kept my eyes closed the entire time because I know I can get a little bit claustrophobic sometimes, and they push you back into the machine. So I kept my eyes closed the whole time. They had me in there, and then I was holding a ball, and they said basically if you start to get sick or you're claustrophobic or anything, like you need to get out of there, you squeeze this and that's like the emergency, get me out. But she did say there is I think it's called a contrast, a dye. So they take some images, and then they stop and they put something. I had an IV in, and they put something through this IV. It's a contrast in it. I think it lights up certain things, and I can't remember the exact of all of this. But and you can feel it going into you. It just feels a little tingly and weird. But she said, I just want to let you know if after the contrast is put in, if you squeeze this ball, then that means that we pull you out and we have to schedule you for a different day. We cannot continue. So I remember laying in there and it hurt really bad. I don't know if you can see it, like underneath, like right in there. It hurt really bad from how I was positioned in that thing. So it wasn't really my breast that hurt, but it was like right underneath, from how I was laying. And they did tell me it will take 40 to 45 minutes. And it did. And I remember laying in there, the music wasn't loud enough, hearing all this bang, then it stops and things rotate or whatever, and then you hear it again. And after a while, I thought to myself, did this thing break? Like, is something going on? Like, I felt like I was in there forever, for hours. So it was a relief to finally get pulled out of there and be able to go get changed and go from there. And then I was able to see my breast surgeon on that following Tuesday. And one thing that the nurse practitioner had told me is when she gave me the news on Thursday, January 2nd, she did say, I do want to let you know there's additional testing being done on the mass or the tumor that we found. So all she could tell me at that point on that Tuesday or that Thursday was yes or no if it was cancer. She said they will be able to tell you much more when you go to your breast surgeon appointment because she will have more details of the testing that's been done to tell you what stage it is, what feeds it. So whether it's hormone receptive or not, and you may have, if you've heard around about different kinds of cancers, hormone receptive, I can't remember, there's two different ones, and then HER2, if that's positive or negative. And that will help to tell me the severity and the grade of the tumor. And all of those things will help to tell you the severity of it and ways that you can treat it. So then the expectation is when I go to the breast surgeon that following Tuesday, is she would be able to tell me all of those things, kind of where I'm at, and here are the different options to treat it. What I've read and what I did experience, and I'll share that in the next video, is the breast surgeon will tell you what your options are. She'll tell you all that information about where you're at and everything and what your options are. They're not supposed to tell you, I highly recommend that you do this, or this is the path that I think we should go. It is really your decision. And I'll share a little bit more about that in the next video, how that is a good thing, but it can also be such a challenging thing and so difficult versus somebody just telling you, this is what you're going to do, this is what, and go from there. There's a lot of thought and decisioning that you have to take upon yourself and think through, and that I talked with my husband about. So I will share information about that breast surgeon visit on another video, and I appreciate you for listening, and have a great day.